Well, they say to be careful what you wish for. And for many Canadians, that wish was for lower housing prices, and now it just may be coming true. The latest numbers show a pretty sharp drop. In March, sales across Canada plunged roughly 22% from last year. The average prices of a home dropped about 10%. But before some of you get your hopes up about buying a house, hold on a sec. The number of homes sold last month actually inched up about 8% compared to February. Why is that important? Because prices typically follow the sales trend. So, does this price mean home prices are expected to go up again soon? For more on that, let's bring in Brett House, Deputy Chief Economist at Scotiabank Economics, and Samantha Brookes, CEO of Mortgages Canada. Nice to see you both. Thanks for coming. I'll start with you, Brett. On the macro side, we've seen sales volumes continue to drop off, but on a month-to-month basis, have we begun to see sales prices go back up?
Yeah, I think that's the right way to look at this because for the full quarter, we're down almost a fifth compared with where we would have been last year in terms of volumes. But we actually have in March seen a little retracement that may indicate we've kind of hit the bottom or a stabilization, an adjustment to that tightening in mortgage rules.
Is that what you see on the ground then?
Yeah,
because you're here from the perspective of the realtors who are actually out there grinding, trying to sell houses. How do these numbers jive with what you see?
I mean, what we're seeing right now is that a lot of people who are purchasing, the home values are coming in with the appraisals.
Right.
So we're not so concerned as much as we were last year, where the appraisals were coming in less than the actual value. What people are paying for it.
The issue, I think, from a realtor's and sort of like the buyers and sellers' perspective is, I feel like there were all these people that got priced out on the way up. Now we've seen things drop off. Not a ton, but a fair bit on a year-over-year basis. Are all those people now trying to find their way back into the market?
Absolutely. I mean, right now, anyone who had a pre-approval before knows they have to get pre-approved because there is a stress test in place. And what we're finding, obviously, is that they've lost some of their buying power, but the prices of houses are coming down.
Right.
So they're still able to purchase something.
So, I mean, square that for me, because, Brett, the whole idea behind the sort of policy levers that are being pulled by governments about taxes and foreign buyers and whatever it may be was to try to cool the market. It kind of worked, but if it's rebounding this quickly, and that's an if, we don't yet know, but if it's rebounding this quickly, were they a success or were they just sort of a temporary stopgap?
Well, I think you can see some evidence of success in some of the rotation in the market, where these people who were previously looking at buying single-detached homes seem to be moving into the condo, the townhouse, and semi-detached market at lower price points. And so, reflecting, some of what we're seeing in that actual mortgage activity, people are substituting to more affordable price points and more affordable assets.
There was a time, Samantha, where real estate in Toronto just felt, for so many people, completely out of grasp. Then we saw people, as Brett says, move into the condo market and shift their expectations. Have we got to a point where expectations and reality and financial sort of realities have set in and people have a better grasp of what they can afford, what they should buy, and how they can sort of manage that debt long term?
What we're seeing basically is anyone who's purchasing, they get the grasp of it.
Right.
It's those who are selling. They have to come to terms with the house is no longer at the value it was last year. And so they have to start renegotiating with their realtors or with the buyer to get those prices down, because they both have to match in order for a home to sell. And right now, we still have sellers who think their house prices are like up in the millions, and that's just not the case.
Well, and we've seen stories where people felt their house was worth X, even closed, but then they weren't able to actually close the transaction. And now you've seen, in the months it takes to sort that out, the value of a home has plummeted. In some cases, we're reading $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. Have you seen some of that?
Absolutely. I mean, it was happening last year too as well, like especially in April, May,
So those
June.
signs were there, right?
Absolutely. Yes, it was. And what's happening with those people, like as you said, they have lost their deposits. Some of them are being sued, and they're losing in court. And it's sad because obviously everybody wanted to get into the housing market at that point, but really and truly, when you're buying real estate, you want to make money going in, right? So you don't want to be overpaying for real estate before you actually buy it. Yeah.
So Brett, if you're the CEO of a big Canadian bank, or you're the head of the Bank of Canada, and you're looking at this and early numbers here giving us a sense of a trend perhaps, what are you concerned about when you look at these numbers?
Well, the first thing you have to do is break down the numbers regionally, because Vancouver and Toronto remain completely different markets from the rest of the country, and we really can't repeat that enough. If you look in the rest of Canada, demand and supply are more or less in balance. In Alberta, where you're seeing a bit of a rebound from the commodity price downturn in 2015, there's some excess supply that's now being mopped up. And so when you look at the country as a whole, those aggregates actually are telling a somewhat different story from what's happening at the local level. So the real concerns are, have we taken a bit of the heat out of the Toronto and Vancouver market? Vancouver probably shows a little more evidence of that. Toronto looks like, we're getting going again.
Well, and like I said, I don't want to make too much of month over month, because if you look at the month to month, from March of 2018 to February of 2018, that's the month to month, we went, prices are up 0.8%, so up minusculely, but they're up. If you go back on the year to year, March 2018 to March of 2017, they're down 14.5%. Yeah. So, you can't make too much of this one little month, but on the whole, you've got homeowners that, if you go back 2-3 years, are still up 15, 18, 20% on a 2 or 3 year timeline. Right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really important points to make here, that on many metrics, we're still at historically high levels for Toronto and Vancouver. We did see a little bit of a pop in the single-digit growth month-on-month levels in sales in Toronto. But for a country as a whole, we're at a ratio of sales to listings of around 53%, which means for every sale, we've got about 2 houses on the market. Normally, that's a pretty good indicator that the market is more or less balanced.
Samantha, one of the things that came up as things started to tighten was, are we building the right stock? That conversation is hugely important going forward, because it will inform what that supply levels are, especially in this city. Do you see that conversation happening? And can you imagine a Toronto, at least, a greater Toronto area, where you get a better balance of what we're building versus what people really want?
Yeah, most definitely everything will start stabilizing. I feel a little bit more just because of what I'm seeing with some of the applications that are coming into my office.
Right.
So I do believe that the stock is still very precious. Toronto is very resilient. As we know, a lot of people from around the world want to move here, so we're always going to be.
But the problem, I think, on the stock front has been that we're building too many shoebox condos of 500 and 600 square feet that a family simply couldn't move into. Whereas lots of cities around the world, New York, Paris, Chicago, LA, whatever, build apartments that families can live in. Have we had enough of that conversation that you think buyers are now going to start forcing developers to do the right thing and answer what they want?
Well, that's not a conversation that has been happening that I haven't heard yet. But I would like to see bigger condos, because the price point of a condo is more affordable for the average Canadian family.
On that?
And I think that's one of the most interesting questions to be asking in Toronto. Why are there still so many parking lots in downtown Toronto? Why on the Bloor line, which has been a subway line in place for 50 years, do we have 1, 2, and 3-story density along that line? Right. There seems to be something that's not working in the connection between application, planning, zoning, and actually getting stuff built to actually ensure that that kind of density is in place in the places where people want to live.
Smart stuff as always. Great to see you again. Great to meet you. Thanks for coming in, Samantha. Really appreciate it. Brett House is the Deputy Chief Economist at Scotia Economics, and Samantha Brookes is the CEO of Mortgages of Canada.